Good afternoon, sports card fans. We are back with another video, and today I have some breaking news about eBay and eBay's research tool, Terapeak. So, what I had intended on doing for the first half of 2024 is providing you all with a market update to see how the sports card market has evolved over the first 6 months, and is that going to be a trend that is extrapolated into the future, and really do a comparison year over year. How is the sports card market performing compared to 2023, compared to 2022, and who is it among all the players for which we buy cardboard of that is performing very, very well in terms of overall aggregate demand for their specific cards? And because of the limitations in terms of the data that we have, the best tools that I have used to get that data, as you've seen in previous videos, is through Terapeak. However, upon attempting to aggregate all of this data together, now you can see I'm on my little Terapeak tool, you'll notice that there are some data elements that are now missing on eBay's wonderful research tool. So let's just do a test search query and see if anybody can identify what exactly is missing. So, as we search Michael Jordan in the past 6 months, what data elements is it that you are seeing that are missing? I see some that are missing, and unfortunately this now makes this tool less useful than what it was before. So as you'll notice, whenever I search Michael Jordan, and I can narrow the category down just so that people out there are very, very I make sure I look at sports cards. As we look at Michael Jordan and sports cards, you'll notice there still is average sales price. There still is a sales price range, the lowest all the way to the highest. Somebody paid 78 grand for an MJ. That's pretty expensive. Average shipping cost, how many people offer free shipping? Oh, all very relevant pieces of information. Sell-through rate, and then total volume of sellers. Interestingly enough, the data elements that I am most interested in would be what is the total sales, not only in terms of dollar amount, total sales dollar amount, but also total sales volume. So the three pieces of information: average sale price, total volume of items sold over a particular time period, and total sales price. All three of those are things that you can come up with. If you have two of them, you can come up with a third. Well, previously, Terapeak gave you this information, and that was very helpful because you could quickly identify, either through specific products like Panini Prism, Panini Donruss Optic, Panini Flawless, whatever product that you wanted to look at, you could very quickly see what is the aggregate demand for those items, meaning how much total volume is transacted over a given time period and how much total sales is essentially sold over a specific time period. Same thing with players. So as new players come about, like Victor Wembanyama, where in the beginning of the year he did not have many rookie cards, now the entire market is flooded with them. How much dollar or how many dollars are being allocated to the Victor Wembanyama market in relation to other rookies, in relation to other rookies in previous years over the same time period, like a Zion? How is Wemby's market performing compared to Zion's market in 2019 and 2020? Well, previously, we had all of that information and all of that data. Now, it is gone. And it seems to be a sudden change, and it seems to also be an unannounced change. And I'm not the only person picking up on this, because whenever I started looking for this data and then noticed that it was absent, then I began looking for a press release, noticing that there was not one. I quickly found out that there's a Reddit post where others are seeing the same thing. And let's just go through this post and see what it says. So this person says, I feel like the function went missing. Speaking in regards to total sold, I was able to see the total amount sold for an item or variation of that item in the blue bar where it shows what it sells for and what not. Anyone have the answer, or has eBay removed this action? Now, I'm not talking about the graph you can scroll to see the total amount sold in a little graph, just the total sales for a given time period. Others are saying, I've just noticed this as well. It looks like eBay has removed the total of all sales for a given search term. Rather inconvenient. How are sellers supposed to gauge demand for a product if we don't know how much is being sold? I think they removed it, and that sucks. Use that info a lot. Hope it was a mistake. It would be so stupid if they did. Still missing 11 days later. This is starting to seem intentional. That was roughly, all this is about a month ago. I've been keeping up with month to month category sales to see if it was decline year over year. I've been seeing a decline, so it makes sense that they'd hide it. So that last comment, whenever I sit back and think about why eBay may have potentially removed this, what are the MBA suits thinking? All the ones who graduated from their prestigious business schools, as they sit around in their very nice, well put together three-piece suits and have to come up with things to do at the boardroom table to justify their jobs. It makes me wonder, what was the decision that the suits made collectively in that conference room as to the reasons why they would remove this feature? I could not come up with one from a seller or buyer perspective in terms of transacting on eBay because, as all the Redditors just confirmed, this is a very useful tool for sellers, and it's also a useful tool for people like me as a buyer. Why? Well, I can gauge demand for a given product. I can gauge demand for how many dollars are being allocated to a specific player's market. So if I want to know what to buy to sell to people later on in terms of grading cards, it gives me useful information to know how many total dollars are being spent on that market. Complete sense, right? You don't want to buy into a market for which nobody else is going to eventually buy into because they're dead markets or declining markets. It makes a lot more sense to track this data on a week over week, month over month, year over year basis over a specific time period to identify trends where you can see aggregate demand increasing for a specific player over a given time period. Now, I know there's other factors in terms of sports cards specifically where new rookies have their print runs being diluted. So as new product comes out, it dilutes the marketplace. Prices ultimately go down, average sales price goes down, but you can still gauge overall demand for that player. That now is non-existent. So from a buyer's perspective and a seller's perspective, it makes no sense because this data would lead me to generate more fees for eBay. So what possibly could be the justification? This is where I get very conspiracy theory oriented, and I think that I might be onto something in that if eBay is providing this information publicly, and you have to be a seller with a storefront where you're paying for the store in order to have access to Terapeak. But there's a lot of people that have access to this if they have a store. If you start to begin tracking specific sales trends over specific categories, let's say in aggregate, you can, through a couple search queries, identify that the sports card market is going down, as we noticed from 2022 to 2023. If that in aggregate goes down, we're not talking about specific players, we're talking about the entire market, which is more of a indicator that the entire economy is not performing well or that specific category in itself is not performing well. If you could cleverly, let's say that you're a massive investor in eBay stock and you are tracking what fee revenue is projecting out to be based on sales trends that you can identify through Terapeak, which are truly leading indicators of what the next quarterly report is going to be whenever eBay does their shareholders meetings. If you can begin to track and trend an aggregate basket of goods, let's say the sports card market, the apparel market, other things that would be a good reflection of the overall amount of items that are sold on eBay, and if you can track and trend that fee structure is actually decreasing because overall demand on the platform is decreasing. There's probably other things you could look at too. Website traffic. I'm not sure how readily available that is to eBay. The more people who go to eBay, the more people are going to buy product on eBay, which is going to lead to higher fees. This is just another data point that you could potentially look at to say if we see declines in overall sales and sales volume across different indices or categories, maybe that is a forward-looking indicator in terms of fees are actually going down. And if that's going down, that can have a negative impact on the stock, and people can make a lot of money shorting the stock. This is me going into conspiracy theory mode, and the reason why I'm led to that conclusion is I can't think of a logical explanation for why this data would be now hidden. It makes no sense to remove this data from a seller's perspective. Even if things are decreasing, something that I'm actively buying, I would just pivot to something that is now increasing. Now, I'm not heavily reliant on this data. In fact, I actually don't use it whatsoever, other than every quarter or every 6 months starting this year, I wanted to do a annual report on the state of the hobby. Is the hobby improving? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? And you can use Terapeak using those old data elements to really come up with a great a reflection of how healthy the market is. Unfortunately, I can't do that now. And as I think about it, I just can't think of why that would be. So let me know what you all think down below. Granted, last year, eBay was the winner of my best platform to sell sports cards. Out of all the possible platforms that you could come up with and that exist out there, eBay was number one. And isn't that a sad state of the overall reflection of the marketplaces that are out there? Is that instead of improving the platforms over time, it's always as time goes on, we see more negative news that come about with these platforms. Higher fees, even fees that are hidden to be higher, which won't even go into detail onto those because I don't really want to talk about it. Fees are increasing over time without them necessarily increasing fees over time. You can put one and one together. They are increasing, especially through promoted listings. So just more negative news. I'm baffled. Let me know what you all think down below. Am I off my rocker and thinking that this could be something where they wanted to remove this because it could be a forward-looking indicator into a decreasing fee structure, decreasing revenue from fees, and thus it could negatively impact the stock price? That's the only thing I can think of. That's literally the only thing, because it makes no sense to remove this information. So now I'm going to have to pivot into using a different data source to gauge the overall health of the sports card market, and I'm disappointed with that. So if y'all have any other sources out there, I really don't want to pay for a Card Ladder subscription just for the sake of reporting out data. I mean, I might have to do that. We'll see. All right, let me know what you all think.